I have a first. And it's also a last at the same time. Come back after the titles and find out what I'm talking about. Hey everybody, Anthony Dodge, Maltrain Outsider, the Merklin Outsider. A Night of the Rhomboid Table here with a new First Impressions video. And this is kind of a unique one. It is a model from a train company that I have never bought from before, highly regarded, and will not really be able to buy from again because they're going out of business, at least in this form. So anyhow, let's jump to it. I got some Danish cars back in 2025 from our friend Simon Jensen, and then I picked up some more Danish cars earlier this week. Now the first set, the red ones, were run primarily in the 80s, and then the blue ones were late 80s through the end of the 90s. And I needed a loco to go with them. I did pick up a Merklin Vectron, but the Merklin Vectron is modern era. So I've been looking for a loco to replace these. Now, of that era, 80s and 90s, there are four primary locos to look for. The ME, and I'm going to show pictures here of each one, Class ME, a few pictures will come up here. And then there's the Class MX, of which I've got a few here, and MY, which together the MX and the MY are just variations of a very popular locomotive in northern Germany and into Scandinavia called the Nohab, which is a very, I think I mentioned, very popular both as a model and as a historical running locomotive in that region. And I think it even goes down into France and even into Eastern Europe these days, but very popular. And then there's the MZ, a big diesel unit that did pull passenger, but I believe it ran more freight than passenger. But looking at the four, the one I liked the most was the ME. The Noabs are extremely popular. I'm in a minority. I don't find them extremely aesthetically pleasing myself. I just thought the ME looked cooler. So that's what I started looking for, and I had a couple of chances last year to buy one, but money and timing weren't right. The company I bought from is a company called MCK. Yeah, I'll put their logo up here. MCK, which is a Danish company. And it, depending on which of my Danish friends I talk to, I get slightly different variations of the relationship between three Danish companies, model train companies. Hobby Trade, which is defunct. Overall, although there is an element of Hobby Trade that still prints and publishes a little bit of scenery and rolling stock. But their big production ceased years ago. And then there's Dekas, D-E-K-A-S, and then there is MCK Trains. And there is some bizarre relationship between these three companies. They're interconnected at various levels. Like a lot of people from Hobby Trade went to Dekas when Hobby Trade went belly up, et cetera, et cetera. The guy from MCK, I've heard he worked or was an executive with one or the other. But anyhow, MCK Trains is the one that makes the biggest variety of these Danish locomotives. They, like Dekas, they focus on Danish railways. So I elected to get the ME from MCK Trains here. So it is model number 01294. Now this is very special because MCK announced with the release of this last set of MEs that they are ceasing production, that he is shutting down. And I say he because although they're a few people that work in the company. The guy who runs it and owns it really is a one-man army, and he's sort of the money behind it, as I've been told. But he was in charge of quality control. He would go to the factory in China and double check on quality control. I've heard he did some of the designing. I've been told people from Daycos did the designing of his locos, but he has a very limited run with each run he does. So he'll release several variants, each with different running numbers and with different liveries, but it's limited, 200, 300, 400 of each of the variants of these locos. Highly regarded. MCK is highly regarded. But they release waves, maybe 2, maybe 3 waves a year, and they tend to sell out very quickly, especially the MEs. Of all the models they release, the MEs are the ones that seem to sell out the fastest. You can walk into a hobby store in Denmark and maybe find one of the Noabs MX or MY from Hobbycade, because so many companies make them, including Märklin and Roco and Pico in Germany. In fact, just a couple of years ago, Märklin released a Danish Noab, and they also, the year before, released Norwegian and Swedish versions. But anyhow, the ME is the one I like the most aesthetically. I just don't dig the MX and the MY as much. So that's the one I wanted. So they announced that they were releasing it. They released the wave last year, and I just could not get things together after the trip and other things I was doing last year. I just could not get together to turn around and buy an ME last year. So I felt like, darn, I missed, but maybe I'll find one in a shop. Well, MCK announced they were releasing one last wave of certain locos. In fact, they then announced a little bit later on that they were shutting down operations. So when they announced this last wave of MEs, I decided I had to act, and I contacted Ken Rosa at Hobbycade, and I said, look, when these are available, I want one. And so he put me on the list. Well, a few weeks ago, he said, hey, the tariffs have been reinstated. Shipping it to you would be extremely expensive. You may want to cancel your order. And I said, well, unfortunately, I really want an ME, and MCK is shutting down. I really got to have one. Well, long story short, I worked it out with my friend Jean Ricard. Jean Ricard put in the pre-order under his name, which is why, again, I'll show this up there. You might see his name on the tag in the bottom left as you're looking at this, or bottom right as you're looking at this. He put his name on the tag and bought it, paid for it, and then he shipped it to me, and I have to pay him back. So it arrived. I'm very excited to have this. MCK is a highly regarded. In some ways, it's kind of sad to hear they're shutting down, although there's rumors that Daycos will, in the long run, pick up the operations from MCK. But MCK does limited runs. For example, this last run, I think there's 6 variations, or was it 8 variations of the ME, of which there's like 400 of each or 200 of each. Some very low number. So this is my first MCK model, and quite possibly my last. So let's get it out of the box, onto the layout, and see if it was worth all this hassle, shall we say. Here it is on the track. This is a substantial locomotive, and by that I mean when I took the box out of the package, you could feel that it was a heavy locomotive. And putting it on the scale, it came in at 721 grams. That is almost a pound and a half. In fact, I think it's a bit more than a pound and a half. That makes it one of my heaviest locomotives.
It comes with an ESU Look Sound 5 decoder programmed to MFX. It has 21 sound and light functions, even more because you can combine functions such as if you do sound and another function, a third sound function joins in. So very nice. Let's take a quick look at it. While I play the sound functions to it. Nicely graphic and detailed, a little winged wheel here. And this little design, I've been told, is just another artistic interpretation of the winged wheel. We get in close. If the camera will focus, you can see nice printing and detail both on the body and along the chassis. Heavy detailing on the bogies. Just an all-around nice locomotive for its era. So definitely a winner. Now I do need to run this in, according to the booklet, about 20 minutes each way. And I'll give you a couple of shots of that, and then we will give it the infamous incline test. And if all goes well, we'll have some running shots, maybe even with some coaches attached. We're about 10 minutes into its running in. And for as heavy a loco as he is, out of the box running very smooth and impressively quiet. Not the most silent locomotive I've ever had, but considering how big this is and how heavy it is, it's impressive. The other thing is there's a little, it has little blinking lights on the side behind the driver's windows, which I haven't seen on a loco before. You'll see it when it comes past here. I'll try to get in close. There it is. So it has been run in, and again, for its weight and size, impressively smooth and quiet. It's time for the incline test. We're going to start them at about half speed first time through, and then speed them up. Let's add the sound. Anticipation. So the incline starts just with about this copse of trees here. And here it goes at slow speed. And it just seems to be taking it as if it's on flat level. No hesitation, none at all. No slowdown, consistent speed. That's great to see. It's first pass through Dumb and Horse Station, which you would never do in real life, obviously. But I'll bring it around and speed it up. All right, so I've just cranked it up about 30 kilometers an hour. That high-pitched drone, I don't know if it's realistic or not, but that could get old real fast. As mentioned, it's ESU Luck Sound decoder. So, yeah, added another 5 kilometers an hour here. But really, I should do it in reverse. Do the fast one and then the slow one. But I like the anticipation of the slow speed first. So here we go. Incline begins about right here. And just powering up. Most guys will have trouble just past the windmill and where you see those crosses there. The turnouts. And no, handled it like a charm. Come on, turn that off. That does get... Folks may want to hear that braking sound, but that high-pitched whine was getting to me. All right, let's go to me, and then we're definitely going to give it some running shots with a spate of cars behind it.
All right, so there you saw it running in. There you saw it do the incline test. What are my first impressions? Well, my first impressions are very strong. I love the way it looks. I think it's going to look great with both the red coaches and the blue coaches. So it runs well, it looks good, and it matches and works properly with what I got it to go with. So it's a win all around. Primary win, it ran well. Especially the incline. It's beautiful. I have two little critiques, and these are minuscule critiques, and not criticisms, just critiques. The sound file. It may be accurate to reality, but if it's reality, I'm glad I didn't have these going past my house every day. The high-pitched whine in the engine, that was not from the actual locomotive motor. That's a sound file. That was part of the sound file. It ends as soon as I turn sound off. It's one of the first times I've ever said I need to turn the sound off of that locomotive. After about 10-15 minutes, it was enough. And so but that has nothing to do with the quality of the locomotive. It's a personal sound relationship. The only other thing is that it can be adjusted in CV codes. It's set up for 10 speed steps. And I would have liked either 28 or 128. So you got to crank it up a bit to really get it up to speed. But again, that's not a complaint. That is not a denigration of the model. It's a great model. It runs well. You just got to turn the dial up. It runs the way I phrase it, which is not technically correct, is it runs slower than I think it should be. When it's running 60 kilometers an hour, I feel like it's running 35. So I can get it up to speed and have it look great. Just crank it up a little higher than I think it needs to be, but that can all be adjusted. So not a complaint at all, just a observation of, oh, okay, that's something I've got to deal with. Otherwise, beautiful locomotive, and I really am appreciative of John Ricard for reserving the model. Ken Rosa at Hobby Caden, who got this last assortment in, very easy to deal with because these things sell out. They do not sit in the stores long, especially the MEs. I spent close to a year looking for an ME and not being able to find one. Anyhow, I'm very happy with this. It's a great addition to the fleet. It's an interesting story about the company MCK, and this video is probably going to be a half an hour by the time it's done, but I did hook it up with some of the red coaches. I even took a while to figure out which coaches was I going to run it with. And so here it is in some running shots for you guys to enjoy before Friday's live stream. So until I see you, hopefully, in Friday's live stream, I want to say Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Take care, everybody.
Okay, as you can tell, I went with the red coaches. So let's get them into action and see how he goes.